BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Martin Dowden, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Wednesday, the 28th of May. The clock is ticking for next season already, and still no managerial movement for Rangers.
Some back pages reflecting on the comments from Carlo Ancelotti. He says his son and assistant David, strongly linked with the Ibrox job, will not be joining him in Rio as he's in discussions with a European club.
We'll look at the latest at who's next for the Ibrox hot seat, and with Ross County dropping out of the Premiership.
You can't hide the financial hit of dropping out of the Premiership, but I suppose it's my job and the chairman and the board's job to look at the whole football club and see if we can reduce any more pain.
What does the future hold for the Highland club? And it's nearing June, so high transfer speculation season can commence.
Kevin Nisbet! Kevin Nisbet! Absolutely world class! He has got it, he has got quality.
Can the Dons keep hold of a striker who's been increasingly influential?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Joined today by Cillian Sheridan, the former Celtic, Kilmarnock, Dundee, I'll stop there, and Rory Loy, the former Rangers, Falkirk and Dundee striker. Welcome to you both.
Morning, Martin.
Morning. I'm going to get straight into it today. Let's begin with this managerial merry-go-round at Rangers. The winds of change swirling around Ibrox, but nothing concrete as yet. I'll start with you, Rory. Are you surprised that we don't have more clarity already?
Yes, I am. I think Rangers would have liked to have somebody in place by now. I think they'll have known for quite some time that Barry Ferguson wasn't going to be the man to take them forward. Listen, contract talks these days can sometimes rumble on for weeks and weeks. They'll want to avoid that. However, you've got to balance that up with getting the right man in the door. A few names have been floated around. A lot of people have opinions on them. But to answer your question, I'm surprised at this moment in time that they don't have somebody in place, that have announced somebody and they've started working towards next season. Now, in terms of how it's going to work from top to bottom, they may feel that, the signings will come from above and it'll be a coach to work with the team. So having the manager in place at this moment in time maybe isn't as important as people are making out, because, you'll be able to come in and work with the players that are signed. However, it's always nice to get a head start if you're going to be appointed the manager.
Yeah, Cillian, what do you make of the situation? One, are you surprised that it's not got a bit more clarity already? And two, how quickly do you think they need to sort this out, given what Rory's saying there as well?
Ideally, yeah, you'd like to have all that sorted before the season starts, or even, it's been so long since Clement has been gone, so that they have had time to even think about it, to be kind of set up before next season has started. I think the whole ownership thing has probably thrown a lot of things up in the air, where you go appoint a manager, new owners come in, they might want something else, they have a different vision, they have different ideas. But I think in terms of even just getting players in and signed, it's difficult probably to attract players when then players are coming in and they don't know what manager they're going to be playing under. So it's probably more from the outside, where a lot of it looks better if you've got a manager in place and everything is set up. But at the same time, you don't want to do that just to appease people, just to say, right, we're all in order. But then it could all change at the flip of a hat if new owners come in and everything changes. So it's kind of stuck in between. What do you do you want to look? I don't know, look like everything's in order just for the sake of it, or actually go and get something done?
Yeah, it's sort of arguable that there's maybe a bit of strength here, I guess, because the press sort of start clamouring for information and a bit of finality and clarity, as do fans nowadays as well. But I suppose, Rory, the point you made is they need to get the right person this time, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And I think, the whole idea of having something in place where there's a director of football, a chief exec, etc., is that if it doesn't work with the first appointment, then it's a seamless transition and somebody else can come in because there's a clear structure there, a clear way of playing and a clear identity from top to bottom. Whereas in previous years with Rangers, it's really been a case of the managers get free rein to sign who he wants. He lasts 6-7 months, he gets replaced. Oh, I don't want X, Y, and Z. Okay, clear them out and make a brand new set of signings, and it's not financially sustainable. Now, when you look at some of the names that have been mentioned, Russell Martin, for example, Ancelotti, for example, these, if I was a Rangers fan, I'd be looking at that and going, right, are we really going to try and outplay Celtic to try and win the title? I'm not quite sure that's a viable option at this moment in time. Don't get me wrong, if the 49ers come in and throw £1 million at it, then, or millions and millions of pounds at it, then that may be doable. That's just not going to happen. They'll have a clear way of doing things, and it's not going to involve signing everybody this transfer window to try and win the league. So I'm not 100% convinced you can come in and try and out-football Brendan Rodgers at this moment in time. I don't know if they've got the quality. So, yes, they do need to get the appointment right, but I do think that changes behind the scenes and a clear structure in place will help no end moving forward.
Rory, I think you were a contender there for a split second. If you could solve everything that Rangers need for £1 million, that would
I know. I got a bit carried away there.
That'd be quite something, to be fair.
It would.
I actually spoke with
forgetting that's no money at all in football, Martin. But it really is a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I think your name's very firmly in the hat now, I have to say. But I actually spoke with a couple of people within Rangers over the weekend, and there's a bit of a game going on, especially when they're talking to guys like me. But I genuinely got the feeling they didn't know who it was going to be, which I thought was quite interesting, and maybe not a bad thing. Maybe it's just all being tightly discussed within a certain boardroom. But of the names, Cillian, you touched on it, Rory. Russell Martin, from what you know of him, what do you think he would bring? And also, we've no idea at this stage, at least as though he could be going to Leicester.
Look, all I know at the minute is his style of play, and everyone knows he's got a very distinct style of play. You know what he wants. He's probably been a little bit criticised for it too much in terms of how much he stuck by it, and he valued that over success at Southampton to a degree where, yes, gets promoted, gets them up, does well, but then kind of that refusal to change his style ultimately cost him his job there. But in today's age with managers, I feel like a lot of their strength seems to be more about their style and how they play over, I think, results and how they do. It'd be something different, probably. Don't know, it'd be exciting for Rangers fans to have someone come up and, as Rory saying, go head-to-heads with Brendan Rodgers in terms of actually playing football. I think Rangers probably first need to go like you can go up against them in football terms, but they probably need to go up against them first in that whole structure of a club. Celtic at the minute seem to be head and shoulders in every department. So I think first of all, Rangers probably need to match them up structurally wise and as a foundation of everything. And then probably after that, they can start to focus on not the smaller things, but the stuff that comes on top of the foundation of all that.
Rory, I'm sure you've talked about the idea of David Ancelotti over the past few weeks on Sports Sound. He seemed to drift out of the reckoning a little bit. He seems to be drifting back into the reckoning a little bit. If you look at it from a player's point of view, how do you think that would be viewed? He's obviously been at such a big club, working with such big players, but there's also the bit where he's maybe been seen as getting a role through his dad as well. Could that work for him, against him?
I think it's down to Davide Ancelotti. I don't know if Cillian agrees, but it'll be how he holds himself. If he comes across like somebody who's worked under his dad and is a bit unsure and doesn't interact with the players and holds himself as almost an assistant manager who's got a job through his dad, then that'll show, that'll tell, and there's no hiding place in Glasgow, so that'll come across very quickly. Whereas he comes in, runs the dressing room and puts his own stamp on things and shows that bit of authority there. Players will respect him, and if he's got good ideas and clear ideas and a good way of communicating, then you take people at face value. It's no different to any other industry, but players may have a preconceived idea, but then it's up to Ancelotti to come in and change that way of thinking. Because if you've got a clear way of thinking, a clear style of play, you come in and you communicate that well, players will respect you and they'll work hard for you and they'll do what they can for you. So it's all down to his credentials as a manager. It'll be his first managerial job if it does happen. And really the buck stops with him as to how he wants to be perceived.
Cillian, do you feel Ancelotti, from what you know of him, which may not be great detail like a lot of us, that it's maybe a risk for Rangers to go down that route?
Yeah, definitely. I think talking about Russell Martin there, I think he's a risk as well. I don't know if there's the position they're in. It's hard to go and get a manager who's going to be tried and tested, is guaranteed to come in and have success, especially when there is that gulf between the two clubs, between Rangers and Celtic. So I think it's any kind of manager they do bring in, there is going to be risk to it. The only thing is with Ancelotti is there's the name. They've got the name Ancelotti that kind of carries a little bit of weight managerially. Control the think that it's only because it's his dad, but I mean, I don't think Real Madrid are any sort of fools where they're going to be hiring guys as assistant managers and coaches just because they're the son of a manager or something like that. So I think it's just an easy thing to throw at someone if their dad is the name and they might say he's got a job. I think he's probably, if there's someone to learn from and be as close to, then Carlo Ancelotti isn't a bad one to have.
Just finally, I mean, Rory, obviously we just discussed the need or the idea of taking your time, getting the right person, but the reality is Rangers need to get this sorted sooner than later. European draws coming up, a lot of recruitment to be done. They don't want to let that drift and let Celtic just get their house in order for next season and be struggling with that.
Exactly, and Celtic will be desperate to come out the traps flying after the disappointment of the last game of the season there in the Scottish Cup final. I can't help but feel that Rangers aren't going to, they'll make quite a few signings, but they're not all going to be show-stopping signings who are going to come in and straight into the starting 11 and make a huge impact straight away. If you are going to appoint an Ancelotti or a Russell Martin, and you're going to have to be patient. I don't see anybody coming up to Scotland, taking over this Rangers side, regardless of who they sign, and playing better football straight away than Brendan Rodgers. I just don't see it happening. Ange Postecoglou was a 1 in a million. That's the exception to the rule, is Ange Postecoglou. Things, generally speaking, take time. So if you want success straight away, you're going to have to find a way of being more difficult to play against and being a bit more ugly. If you want to play fast-flowing football and build a team that's going to be better than Celtic on the deck, then you're going to have to be prepared to be patient, and that may take a season or two.
Sounds as though you're maybe making the case for Ange Postecoglou to take over at Ibrox. We never know.
He's still got a job at the moment there, Martin.
I know, yeah, we'll wait and see.
Trophy in the bag.
Yeah. Let's move on. Dundee still searching for a manager. Sean Maloney and Charlie Adams seem to be the favourites. Bromley boss Andy Woodman has also been linked. I have to say, I don't know too much about Andy Woodman. Should they go for a familiar face or a left field candidate, Cillian?
I think I don't know, would you say Tony Docherty was left field? I don't know if many people saw him coming in as he done well. Probably for me, I think Sean Maloney is probably the favourite, just given I think he ticks a lot of boxes for everything within Dundee at the minute. There's, from the owner, the Burnley connection. Sean's got relatively done well down in England, and then I think the Gordon Strachan link is a big one. I know him and Sean got on really well when he was a player. He loved them, so I can probably see that being quite a big pull for the club. So So for me at the minute, I think Sean Maloney is probably the favourite, or he would be the one that would least surprise me if they were to go and appoint him.
Rory, what do you think the criteria or even the expectation is from the Dundee board now, given Tony Docherty going in the manner he did? What do you think they'll be saying to a manager about what they have to achieve?
Well, it seems that it's top six, or you lose your job. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tony Docherty had a difficult season. I can't quite believe Dundee sacked him, but it is this current Dundee board all over the back, really, when you look at how they've handled a few situations. Gary Bowyer getting promotion, he loses his job. Tony Docherty came in, finishing sixth. And then the second season, they struggle a little bit. Dundee don't have a divine right to be in the top six. They need to, over time, build something which is going to sustain them as a Premier League club, and then push towards top six every season. Then try and do what St Mirren have done. Again, I don't see any reason why Tony Docherty wouldn't have been able to achieve that. He'd have been disappointed with the outcome of this season. He should never have lost his job, Martin. He should never have lost his job. So who comes in next? Sean Maloney. He's come up to Hibs. He was given a bit of a raw hand, let's be honest. Is he going to fit into Dundee again? Is he going to come up and fit into the Dundee mantra where the expectations are high and really you need to finish in the top six or you're going to lose your job? Not convinced. I think you need a bit of an older head at Dundee, personally.
Okay, a reminder that on this week's Scotland Rugby podcast, Tom and Andy chat with two of the biggest names in Scottish rugby, Jamie Ritchie and Rory Darge, ahead of Edinburgh and Glasgow's URC quarter-final playoffs this weekend. Now, let's talk relegation and hear a bit about the impact on Ross County from Chief Executive Officer Stephen Ferguson.
There'll be a financial hit. Everybody, you can't hide the financial hit of dropping out the Premiership. But I suppose it's my job and the chairman and the board's job to look at the whole football club and see if we can reduce the I suppose any more pain in regarding people's livelihoods. But the fact of the matter is, it will need to be reviewed, and everybody will be part of that review, and we need to try as a board and along with the chairman and myself need to try and make the right decision for the football club and how we can prosper moving forward.
Ferguson very open there about the financial consequences of relegation and what that means. How hard is it when clubs go down within a club to regroup and rebuild for the season ahead?
Yeah, obviously the season ends on doom and gloom, and it is worst case scenario for most clubs, end of the season getting relegated, especially in Scotland when there is finances are so tight, and kind of every pound matters to them. So I think any loss or dent in revenue hurts clubs a lot more. The only thing is, I think a lot of it comes down to how clubs are run. If clubs kind of have some sort of contingency in place for when that happens, Ross County are a little bit, I feel, lucky that they do have an owner who's willing to put his hand in his pocket when they need it. When they drop down, I think he knows he knows the cost involved that he needs to throw at it in order to get them back up. So I think they'll probably be one of the favourites to come back up quite quickly. But it is something that kind of ripples through the whole club.
I think it's a good point Cillian makes. I was up there for a while and know a lot of people within Ross County, and it brings home the sort of impact of this when you think it through. But I'm sure Roy McGregor will look perhaps at the example of Inverness and how quickly things can slide if you don't stabilise it and consolidate at least in that championship, as well as look to bounce back straight away, Rory.
Yeah, but for every Inverness, there's a Livingston. So Roy McGregor will be probably in the mindset, maybe not immediately, but moving forward, if Roy McGregor will probably be thinking, right, let's be a Livingston. Let's come back up. If not the first year, then the second or third year. And as Cillian quite rightly says, Roy McGregor's got, backs them well. A lot of people worried about Livingston when they first went down. Is that going to be the kind of the start of the demise down to the lower leagues and Siberia for a while? But no, they came straight back up. So Ross County, and there's always that argument as well. You know, you heard the St Johnstone fan on Sports Sound a few weeks ago saying he would rather be winning games in the Championship than losing games in the Premier League every week to an extent. So, you know, Ross County will go down, they'll regroup, we'll get players in, and I don't think it'll be too long before they get back up. Put it that way. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and just quickly, Cillian, one thing about Livingston was David Martindale seemed to really change the way the approach almost entirely. Do you think Ross County would really need to rip up what they've been doing for the last season or two and do something different?
I think it'll depend on if Don Cowie stays in charge. I don't know if he'll. Obviously, the end of the season doesn't reflect too good. Problem is St Johnstone are going to go down, and it looks like St Johnstone with Valakari, that his style of play, I don't really see him changing his style of play. So it's not a case of them just going down and having to almost bully their way out of it. Falkirk as well have shown you that you can go and just go total football and kind of like play your way out of the league in a nice way. I don't think Roy McGregor is going to be too bothered about what way to do it. I think he'll maybe, if he sticks with Don Cowie, or if he appoints someone new and what they say, right, this is what we need to get straight back up, here's what you need, kind of thing. I don't know, it's one of those ways, many ways to skin a cat. It'll only be at the end of the season whether it'll prove to be the right decision.
Okay, let's quickly look at transfers. We'll have a whole summer to go over that, so we'll just do a quick one. The situation with Kevin Nisbet at Aberdeen, Rory, it seems there's going to be a big amount of finance required to get him in. Would he be worth it, given what you saw, particularly towards the end of that season?
Well, you know, what is a big amount of finances, and, you know, there'll be a ceiling on what he's worth and what he's not worth, and that'll vary from person to person, but it's most important with Jimmy Cillian and Dave Cormack. Think he's had an impact. He's had some really good moments. He's also had some spells there where he's probably not performed as to the levels he would like to perform. So I would imagine Aberdeen will have a figure in their head that they're prepared to pay, and they put a value on Kevin Nisbet. The good thing about Kevin Nisbet is, you know, Cillian used the words tried and tested before. In a managerial sense, he is tried and tested. Okay, he didn't pull up trees the full time he was there, but he had some really, really good moments and came into form towards the end of the season. So you know you're getting somebody who's going to contribute, who can score goals, and you know that's got to be worth a decent amount of money. But I wouldn't be absolutely breaking the bank for him. I would have contingency plans in place, but if you can get a fair price for him, then absolutely it would be a good signing.
It's going to be interesting to see how Dave Cormack backs Jimmy Cillian after that success at the Scottish Cup, whether he gets a little bit excited and puts quite a lot in for the European challenge ahead. But right now, that's all we've got time for. Many thanks to Cillian Sheridan and Rory Loy, and thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Thanks very much for listening.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.